Hello again, everybody. I'm Scott Rodell here at the Great River Taoist Center, and today I'd like to do a quick unboxing of a sword just received from the Art of Fire and Iron, and it's a sword that they've donated to be the Champions Prize at this year's full contact Chinese sword fighting tournament that we're holding over in England on June 8th. I've obviously somewhat unboxed it already. I took it out of the box it was shipped in, but I haven't peeked inside the presentation box yet. So this is really live. One other thing I'll point out real quickly is this is the second version or upgraded version of this sword. This is a Lanling Shiwei Jian, a type of jian that was produced in the later Qing dynasty for certain guard units. I already did a review of that earlier sword, really like that one, and I also did cutting with that sword. Two different videos here on YouTube, so you can go and find those there. I'll put the links down below, of course, but we'll see how this one's different. I did like that one. Pretty sure I'm gonna like this one too. So let me just open it up. Nice little presentation box. These swords tend to come from in China today. Let's see what we got. So of course, got some foam here. Get rid of that. Yeah, it looks nice. Okay, so put that box aside there. So you can see quite a nice sword. One thing that's interesting is this metal. I believe that's metal. Yes. So in the late Qing period, we started seeing some swords with metal scabbards. I'm thinking that probably is because there was introduction of European swords, of course, of interaction with European militaries or European foreign advisors in China, helping them with the new army. And they used military sabers, European-style military sabers at the time. So probably that's why we see that show up on Chinese swords at the time. And that's, of course, going to make it quite a nice, durable sword. Other thing is they've added something that they had at that period, which again is from European swords, which is a release. So you can see the little button here. So that's not on the earlier example or the earlier version they made of this Lanling Shiwei Jian. But it's on this one, and they've added just a little nice little, what would you call that, flower around there, around the place where the pommel goes through, where the lanyard goes through. So that's a nice little feature, nice little touch. Let's see how this works. So that's, yeah, very simple, straight out, just release, right? Simple release, typical of what we see in that later period. Just push that button. And I think that's a pretty nice feature, I think. Because, you know, if you're going to use this sword that travels around with you, that keeps it from spilling out. So if it's in your car or wherever, that's pretty nice. Let me set that aside for a moment. And something that honestly I don't particularly care for is that a lot of the Chinese companies these days, the different forges, put plastic around the blade. I think obviously to try to keep the oil on the blade during transport, which I can understand, but it's not necessary, and it's just more plastic garbage in the world. So Art of Fire and Iron and everybody else, and I do mean everybody, not just this one forge, please stop doing that. It's unnecessary, and I'm always worried that a bit of it might get stuck in the scabbard and then cause problems later getting it in and out. So how's the balance? That feels really good, feels really nice. Nice balance, moves very nicely. Whoever wins this at the tournament, I think is going to be very, very happy with it. Nice springy temper. Quite a nice sword. Overall, kind of makes me wish I was competing. I could win. The other thing I would do here, for some reason, some of the people in China think that this rounded tip is something that they did. I've only, the tips on antique swords, having handled well over 1,000 antique Chinese jian, I can tell you that no, they weren't rounded like this. Sometimes they do get worn and are somewhat rounded, but I would probably make this a little bit more, I would definitely make this a little sharper, a little less curved, bring that in so there's a middle of a tip for a thrust, but that's a relatively minor point. Overall, it really feels nice. Feels good. All right, so there you go. That's the new one. The only real differences are, and I said the two major differences are, and I think the earlier one has a nice tip, so I'm not really going to complain about that. I'm just going to point that out. I hope they make that a little bit sharper. they only get this rounded when they're worn. They were never forged and made like this. So two nice features. They're really nice durable scabbard. And, oops, that's one thing, gotta pay attention to. I just noticed, obviously, if you look at the scabbard throat there, you have to put it in, pay attention to which direction you put it in so that that clicks. And if you can hear that click on there, but really nice piece, quite nice. I'll be very happy to be handing this over to the champion next month. That'll be really nice. That's one of the things I enjoy as the referee, is at the end to be able to give the champion his prize. So I would recommend, if you're looking for a sword that's rather unique, this style of guard, of course, was not common during the Qing period. I talked about that in a little more detail in the earlier videos. Go have a look at those. Also, please have a look at that cutting where I did the cutting work with this Lanling Shiwei Jian. But this is not very common. This, quote, quillins, these are not really quillins, but for shorthand we'll use that. Coming down toward the blade like this is less common than the ones that sweep back toward the hand. You remember, this is typically a taotie. It's a Chinese mythical animal. That was the shape of the Jian guards. That would be the classic standard sort of shape, if you will. So this one's a little different. I think that makes it a little more interesting, a little more fun. It's one of the reasons why I originally suggested they make them in this style, this type of Jian, this Lanling Shiwei Jian, because it is something different. And it's also, I think, not only is it a really great piece for practice, definitely recommend this for somebody who wants to have a sword for test cutting or for their form practice, but also it's a very rare sword. So if you're interested in the history of Chinese swords, you're not going to find one like this on an antique one on the market. Extremely rare. So it's kind of nice to have this reproduction. Anyway, so there you have it. The upgraded, or the second, what would you call it, 2.0 version of the art of fire and irons, Lanling Shiwei Jian. Hope you like this review. If you do, find it interesting, or if you have any other questions, please put them down below. And we always appreciate subscription, and hit that bell so you hear about the next video. Until next time, thanks, and 再见.